What's up, guys? It's Drew from the Money Is Show, and today we have a special guest on the show for you, right here from Utah, Mr. Jimmy Rex. And we were riffing back and forth a while ago. Found out we have a ton of cool connections here that we both support. We'll probably dive in that here with you. Jimmy is a best-selling author of You End Up Where You Are Heading, and also is a real estate expert as well as host of the Jimmy Rex Show. So we're going to dive into real estate, we're going to dive into business, and we're going to dive into what the hell do you mean you're ended up where you're headed? What does that mean and how does that work? So on that note, you guys welcome Jimmy Rex. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Dude, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks,
yeah, dude, I've watched your gram for a while, and I've seen you explode, actually. Because I randomly, this was probably like, dude, maybe 4 years ago? Tell me if this sounds right. Maybe 4 years ago, you were running some Facebook ads with your book, you came out.
Yeah, it was
on
a
the
real estate book, my first book.
Side.
Yeah.
And I started following you then. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that dude is. And it sounded pretty. Actually, I remember, dude. I'm gonna tell you something funny. I remember you had a really cool intro video or some sort of video that when you were doing that ad. And I remember watching, thinking, dude, that is a really good video, branding video. And I literally took it, sent it to my camera guy, and said, hey, I want to make something like this guy right here. Man.
Awesome.
I totally forgot about it till right when we started talking about it, dude. But so I've been following you for a while and saw your explosion of growth. Main social media outlet is Instagram for you?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays especially, it's Instagram just really nailed it on being able to do the swipe ups and take people where you want them to go, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously you got to have a YouTube presence and Facebook, but the swipe up feature is like gold for me. Because I do so many different things. I'm always working on different projects. I've got, different events I'm doing or different things I want to share. And so to be able to just send people to my Instagram is where I always tell people to go.
Have you dived into TikTok yet?
Yeah, so.
Did you?
Well, what happened was I was at a real estate conference about 3 months ago, and a couple of the guys there are crushing it with TikTok. And I've always kind of thought, like, I'm not giving my information to the Chinese, I'm not doing this. Yeah. And then I saw them getting leads and how it was working. I'm like, man, I should do that. I have an interesting life. I think I could blow up my TikTok. So I start posting videos, and a couple of years ago, I sunk a houseboat at Lake Powell.
Yeah, I remember. I saw the video.
And so the original video, I took all the clips of my buddies of me sinking this thing, and I'm just having fun with it. And my marketing guy's a genius. He's the one that put together that reel that you saw. His name's Brett, and he's so good. And I sent him all the clips. I go, dude, make me a funny video. And he sends it back, and I was like, it's good, but it's not good enough. And then I go, I got it. Add the Titanic music, bro. And that thing blew up. It had over 150 million views, just got shared everywhere. So long story short, I started the TikTok, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna start with my houseboat sinking video. I know that plays well. And dude, my first week with TikTok, one of my videos went over 32 million views.
No way.
I ended up with 3 million likes or whatever it's called, and then 90,000 followers. And so it's been kind of fun. So because of the houseboat sinking video, I now have a presence on TikTok. So.
Now here's what's funny, dude. When that houseboat sunk, the famous video that you made, and I've seen it I think I saw it on Instagram somewhere. But when that houseboat sunk, that was your boat. What was going through your freaking head as you're plummeting this boat? Because at that point, you were not thinking, one day I'm going to have 3 million views on TikTok.
No, but honest truth, so I grew up with a father, bless his heart, he would try to do these amazing trips, but he didn't have the money to do it. Okay. So something would go wrong, and he'd just lose his shit. This was like...
It's like a Chevy Chase.
Dude, my dad was called Chevy Chase all the time. We were that family. And he would just ruin the trips because he'd freak out and start yelling at people, and somebody would accidentally wreck the Wave Runner or the snowmobile or whatever it was, And I always remember thinking to myself when I was a kid, I'm like, if I ever have money to do things, to have nice things, I will not care if something happens. I just didn't want it to ruin the trip.
Okay.
And so we're driving back on the houseboat. I've done that trip 50 times. It just was bad luck. We didn't hit anything. Nothing was happening. It was just houseboat is sinking. And I'm like, how is it? If you watch the video at the beginning, I'm like, how is this even happening? And my buddies were like, dude, we're going down. I'm like, we're not going down. It's fine. And then it kind of got to the point where I was like, this is pretty serious,
Yeah.
But one of my buddies was buying a cabin. This is what's funny is we get out into the channel, my buddy was buying a cabin, and he's like one of those dudes that if you don't answer his call, he's gonna call another realtor just because even though we're buddies, that's just who he is. And so he's calling me about buying this cabin. So half the time, it doesn't show this on the video, but I was literally putting together a real estate deal while the freaking houseboat's going down. And I made everyone else get off. We were, taking stuff back. And I just, honestly though, I was like, I literally said to myself, I'm like, I don't even care if this thing goes to the bottom of the sea. It's insured. This is a funny story. I'm going to enjoy the entire thing. In the moment, all my buddies were there. Was like, dude, I cannot believe how chill you were. And I was like, what's the worst case scenario? I was gonna get off the boat. I made sure everyone else got off the boat. It's like, okay, so you sunk a houseboat. It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's turned out to be a great story for you.
That was
dude.
perfect. No,
Like,
it was-
you've literally almost built not a brand around it, but to definitely use it as fuel for your brand. Like, who freaking sinks a houseboat
Yeah.
while putting a real estate deal together?
Well, and does it with a smile on their face,
Yeah, they're
right?
like, oh, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. And I want to actually circle back around here because back in my office we were talking. You end up, if you don't mind saying this, you ended up repairing the boat, kept the boat 8 years. You recently sold it, but tell that story real quick.
Yeah, no, I bought it in 2013, and it was funny. Like, I'll actually tell a little bit more of the story. So when I was a kid, we moved to a wealthier part of town, but we kind of like shouldn't have probably. We were
Okay.
definitely house poor kind of thing, you know. And again, my dad probably trying to do too much. God bless him. And because of that, like all my friends would always do these cool trips, and they'd always talk about Lake Powell. They'd always talk about going to Lake Powell, and it just pissed me off because we weren't going to Lake Powell. We were going hiking or something. And so I remember as a kid, as a 12-year-old, I said, one day when I'm older, I'm going to buy the nicest houseboat. I'm going to throw these sickest Lake Powell trips anybody has ever seen.
Yeah.
And so anyway, in 2013, we did really well that year in real estate. I had a 3-month run where I sold like 80-something houses.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know what, I got some extra money, I'm gonna buy a houseboat. And so I bought it, and for the next few years, I mean, I threw the most epic Lake Powell trips you've ever seen in your life. But what was funny is, so 3 years ago, I guess, it sinks, and we end up, reviving it and paying the deductible a couple $1,000. Well, I ended up getting an offer because of the weirdness with coronavirus and people's inability to buy boats. Even after owning it for 8 years, probably took it out 50 times, sunk the damn thing, and I actually sold it for more than I bought it for back in 2013.
It's insane. Like,
Yeah.
when's the time you heard boats appreciating in value?
Dude, it's insanity right now. It's like everything is.
So talk to me about real estate, because you're doing a real estate deal on the boat. You just mentioned real estate again right there. Talk to me about real estate. What drove you to it?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in, getting my associate's degree, I was at Utah Valley University. It's kind of a junior college over here in Utah. At the time it was.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get a 4-year degree from there. I wanted to transfer to BYU, a bigger school. But I didn't, here's how naive I was, dude. I don't know how I survived. I should have had a mentor for something. But I literally so I get my associates and I go over to BYU the day of classes. I'm like, hey, I'm here to, sign up for my classes, just like you do at UVU. And at the junior college, and they're like, okay, well, did you apply? Did you get accepted? And I'm like, well, that's what I'm here for. And they're like, well, sir, the deadline was like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, can you just make an exception? They're like, what? No, like, what are you talking about? I was so naive, dude. So I had like 6 months with nothing to do. And it was funny, I'd been listening to some CDs on audio. I was always a big studier of just, trying to learn. And so I was listening to Carlton Sheets and Robert Allen and Robert Kiyosaki. And it was talking about real estate all the time. I was like, well, I'm gonna go get my license because worst case, it'll teach me, I'll know how to do real estate. And so I just went and got my license, and that was in 2005. And dude, it just went insane. My first year I sold 60 homes. Next year I sold 98 and just freaking took off as an agent. Yeah, as a real estate agent. And that was 06, 07. And then the whole thing collapsed, obviously. But so I had that 1.5 year run where I was just, it was crazy. I would find checks in my desk I didn't know were there for months. It was insane. I had a title company call me one time and they're just like, yeah, well, the house closed, where do you send the check? And I'm like, I didn't sell anything. And I'm like, where was it? They're like, Saratoga Springs. I'm like, oh, nope. What's the name on it? I'm like, nope. I'm like, how much is it for? They're like $13,400. I'm like, oh yeah, that's mine. Okay, send it over.
Familiar.
But it was that crazy. It was just nuts, and kind of got thrown into the fire, and then just really took to it. I feel like sometimes in life you get lucky. And like when I was a kid, I wanted to be an Army sniper, I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a doctor, all these different things. And none of them, now that I'm older, I know my behavioral style, I know how I am. Oh my gosh, those would have been the wrong careers. Yeah, I couldn't sit there as a sniper for 12 seconds, let alone 12 days, waiting for to shoot somebody. Yeah. And, but I got into real estate, and like the entire career is based on literally just knowing as many people as you can and creating as much value as you can.
Right.
And so my entire life, thankfully, people are always like, how do you know so many people? How do you have like so many people that you're close with? I was like, well, where you guys are working 10, 12 hours a day, I'm out there creating relationships those 10 to 12 hours. And so I've been doing that now for 15, 17 years.
Yeah.
And it's really just created this really fun, really perfect for me life that I accidentally kind of fell into a little bit.
Did you ever finish at the college?
Dude, I did. Only reason why, this is kind of funny, is so I was killing it in real estate. I'm like, I'm never going back to school. And then I broke off an engagement, and I literally just wanted to meet some new girls. I wanted
So you thought, hey, what a
Yeah, so I was like, of course I'm going back to UVU. That's where the pretty ones were, And so went back, got my degree, finished my bachelor's. And then what was funny is in 2010, broke off another engagement. And I'm like, well, I kind of want to go somewhere else. I kind of know everyone in Utah. And I found out there was a program at Arizona State that you could get a real estate, a master's in real estate development. And so I'd always kind of wanted to learn that. It was a good way to kind of keep my career moving forward, but also leave for 9 months. And so I went down to Arizona State. I actually ended up with a master's degree from Arizona State.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, isn't Arizona State like the party?
It is,
college?
dude. I totally didn't get the true experience. So I went down. When I went down there, I was still a member of the Mormon Church.
Okay.
And so, I mean, dude, I was every single day. It's girls walking around, and seriously, they had like lingerie day. Like you've never seen so much side boob in your life. But unfortunately for me, or maybe it was fortunate for me, I was not doing the party scene at that time. So yeah, I did. I went into my 30s a virgin. I was 34 before I had my first drink of alcohol. True story.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I was that. I was a part of my life that was everything. Like I did it very well.
Did you grow up LDS?
I did. Yeah. So went on a mission to Mexico and all that. Yeah, it wasn't until my early 30s that I started kind of looking elsewhere and other things. But
let me ask you this, and you don't have to talk about this if you want to, because
we can talk about whatever. I'm pretty open. Yeah.
What made you leave the LDS? Is your family still part of it?
Yeah, my whole family is, and to be honest with you, I'm so grateful for it because I love who I am today. I love the character of me. I love everything that is kind of happened in my life that's gotten me to this point. And so I'm not naive. Like I can't, if I'm going to if I'm going to blame it for some of the things I had to work through, I got to give it credit for all the things I did right?
Sure, yeah.
So I, make this very clear that I love my path, and that being part of it, it'll always be my heritage. For me, it was as simple as I've always been a student of trying to better myself. Always. Like I'm obsessed with becoming the best version of myself. It's why I got into plant medicine. It's why I've read over 100 books a year. There was a period there where I read over 100 books for 5 or 6 years in a row. I mean, I'm obsessed with becoming the best version of myself. I've been to every conference you can ever go to. I've taken everything from Tony Robbins and everyone else in between. And what had happened is that about 31, 32, I'd stopped progressing. I'd kind of hit this spot where I felt like I was now going the wrong direction. There's a lot of, for a single guy in a church setting like that, there's a lot of shame and guilt and things that come into play. And for me, it was detrimental to my growth. And so I remember the first day I just said, I need to be open to the idea. This is as far as I could get myself to believe, because I was all in. I mean,
sure.
I was
you were on a mission for 2 years.
Yeah, I was doing this thing. I said, I need to be open to the idea there might be something more.
Okay.
And so the way I looked at it, I said, all right, well then, Jimmy, if you were looking at this at any other thing, you would study from all sources, you would get all the information, and then you'd make the best decision. Why are you only looking at church sources when it comes to spirituality and God? And so I basically just for 2 years, I studied everything I could get my hands on. Probably spent 800 hours on it.
Yeah.
And, and then after that, I realized like, oh wow, that's not what I thought it was. There's a lot more to this. And so I like to tell people, it's like, I was zoomed in on a map, right? And you're looking at this map and you're zoomed in, and this is all you've ever seen your entire life. So when people are like, dude, there's more to it, you're like, no, there's not. I'm staring right at it. I can see the whole thing. And finally, it's like somebody grabbed my head and pulled me back. And I went, oh, this map's about 100 times bigger than I thought it was, right? It's like, that's still on my map, but the map just includes so many other beautiful things now. And so that's kind of what happened with me. It's kind of led to this, this time where you have to explore and figure out who you are, what you're about, what your morals are, where you're from, where you go, and all these different things. And it's really cool. I actually kind of embrace the uncertainty of not feeling like I know all the answers to life. But I like to say is one of my favorite things in my closet in my master bedroom, I got this beautiful picture of like a silhouette of a woman with paint just splashed everywhere. And it's called A Beautiful Mess. And the reason I love that painting is because my life is a beautiful mess. I think life is just a beautiful mess.
Yeah.
And when we can embrace life as a beautiful mess, it doesn't need to be anything. Because let's be honest, there's no right way to do life. Everyone has these answers to this, like, there's no right way to do this. Everyone just does whatever you think you feel is right. We're all doing the best we have with the information at that time. So for me to embrace that life is a beautiful mess has really created this where, I don't have these expectations anymore. Like I had so much expectations of who I was supposed to be, what I was supposed to be doing. And when you can kill off those expectations, and usually they're not even your own, they're other people's, there's really not bad days. Like I have learning days. I have days where it's harder than others and I'm learning lessons. But without the expectation of your life needing to be something, it's really a beautiful thing to just embrace it all, take it all in, and then learn and grow every day.
Wow. Yeah, dude, so I got a couple questions I want to go through with you, but first I want to go into a little bit of a different topic off of religion for a second, and I want to go into, you have this, you started this during COVID, and I just followed you on Instagram and saw you do this, right? I was like, dude, what a freaking cool idea. Like it's one of those things where I was actually like jealous, like, oh shit, I should have thought of that.
That's what I thought was
such a good idea.
Dude, like honestly, like Dave Portnoy had his cool fund and everything, and even the pizza reviews. I'm like, I should have thought of those. I'm better than this, you know. So it's like,
I know I can do
yes,
this.
like both of those things. I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, the necklace came in and now it's just starting to kind of click.
Oh, let's get it off.
Yeah, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Want me to just put it in the
I'll
box?
just put it in my pocket. Is it doing any of the audio okay for
No,
otherwise?
it sounded good. It was about the last minute.
I'm gonna drop back to where, hey, I'm gonna get off religion. Let's talk about
Yep.
the topic right there.
Cool.
I saw it click on it when it like it went up underneath
Yeah,
it
no,
for
no.
some reason.
Cool. Sorry, I should have just taken it off. It's easier.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go down the road of the $100
Yeah.
tip, and then you can talk about the $1,000
Cool.
play you have. Tell me ready, Jake.
Yep, ready.
Okay. So let's back off of switch gears here for a second. Get off of religion for a second, because I grew up in a super religious home as well, and like so many of the experiences you went through was like almost verbatim, like kind of how I went through them. And I think the coolest thing you said right there that stuck home with me, Jimmy, was like, I see so many of my friends who left, say, the religion that I came from. So I didn't come from LDS. I came from like strict Baptist, right, like independent Baptist side. And I saw so many of the friends that I was with and did like all the mission stuff with in our religion that left it, but then became super bitter and like hated the process. And I for some reason like never did. I never put it together in the sense of like I could be upset about some of the things I don't like, but it also gave me the things that made who I am today, the integrity and the work ethic and the character and the sales ability, right? Like, dude, I learned sales from my religion. Like,
Totally.
Not in a bad way. It's just like,
Yeah, I don't care what you're selling. Nothing's harder than selling Jesus door to door.
Jesus, dude, it is tough, bro. I'll have to say some funny stories later, but yeah, but it's a great point. Great insight, man. It's like you can't blame. If you're gonna blame it for the negative, well then don't take the positive from it either, because it also gave you a lot of positives, man. That's really good
I mean,
insight.
if you leave a religion too, it's like, don't give it any more power. It already took so much of your, if you think it was like
Exactly.
taking your life, well, don't give it any more. Just move on. You know?
And
like,
it's funny
ways to
because like
work
15
through
years
your
later,
stuff.
they're still talking about it. I'm
Totally.
like, dude, it's been 15
and I
years.
get it. It does take some time to like refigure everything out, but you got to do that work. You got to work through it, and then you get to a beautiful place, and you're like, oh, this is awesome.
I want to switch gears here and talk to you about again, I saw this on Instagram, and it's one of those moments where I was like, damn it, Drew, you I can't believe you didn't think of this one, because you did this during COVID, and I thought, man, what a freaking brilliant idea. And you did this, I want you to tell the story about it, because you did this like $100 tip waitress at a restaurant type thing. So break it down for us.
Yeah, it's called the $100 Dinner Club, and basically, I mean, me and some buddies own a restaurant in Vegas, so I'm familiar with the process.
First of all, what's the restaurant?
It's called Mas Por Favor.
Mas Por Favor.
Yeah, it's
So
a
if you
little
ever go to
taco
Vegas-
restaurant in the front, and you go through a speakeasy. It looks like El Chapo's tunnel, and it leads to a really badass bar in the back. So yeah,
Awesome,
check it out
dude.
if you're ever in Vegas. But so we're familiar with the restaurant industry and everything, and I was so mad at the response that people had to COVID. Like, we should not be shutting down all the people that need to work, shut down the people that are vulnerable or whatever else, or have them like figure out ways to.
It's like they did it ass backwards, dude.
It was completely ass backwards, and I was just so frustrated. So like, my favorite thing to do is to go out to eat. When I was a kid, we didn't have money.
Seriously,
and
like, never.
I didn't go out to eat till I was 12 years old, and
Yeah.
I remember like all my friends going out to eat. Same thing. Like, I have all these insecurities from when I was a kid, you know. But it is what
You
it
remember
is.
like going to McDonald's thinking, dude, we are crushing
Dude, if I
it.
got straight A's, we got to go to Leatherby's. I've been to Leatherby's. It's like $4.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What about, tell me this one. Do you remember working your ass off for the personal pan pizzas from the Book It Club? The Book It Club? Like, dude, when they say I can get a Pizza Hut, dude, I was
ours was
all
like
in.
a cookie from Harmon's, you know? I mean, it's just like, I have these memories, but it's like, that's what it was. But so I've always loved going out to eat. Like,
Yeah.
my next book title, in fact, anyway, long story short. So as the industry started getting wrecked, and I started seeing like how much they were suffering and everything, I was like, I want to do something about this. And I was like, I believe that God brings us together and the devil divides. And so since the pandemic started, I believe that the people who have ulterior motives have been trying to keep us isolated, separated, all those things. So I've done the opposite. I've tried to get people together any way I can, literally every single week, whether it's a poker game or an event or a party. I've just been doing things to bring people together. And I know there's critics that aren't going to appreciate that I do that, but that's my way of like, I just think that the mental side of it and all the psychological reasons that I think a lot more people would die from not being together than people that are from COVID. That's just my own.
Proven fact. Like, they did all these studies when you leave humans alone.
Yeah.
What freaking happens to them?
Yeah, so it seems like, Jimmy's insensitive. No, it's the opposite. I just am looking at this from a different lens. I had two buddies, commit suicide within the first month of COVID starting, and I'm convinced to this day they needed to be around people, and I'm convinced they would have been been okay if we didn't lock everyone down. So anyway, long story short, I was like, all right, how can I get everyone together where nobody can say crap? But then I was like, how can we help the restaurant business? And I was watching a video on Facebook back in early December, and a couple realtors went to breakfast, and like 4 of them, and they all gave $100 tip, and they recorded it. And I'm watching it, and I get choked up pretty easy. I'm a total sap, dude. Like I'll be watching TikTok videos, and I get all crying and stuff.
Anytime the soldiers come home,
oh
on
yeah,
TikTok, it's game over for me.
Dude.
Because I love America, and it's like game over, dude.
Same. I have so many I've cried on my podcast multiple times. Like, the guy will be telling a story, and I start crying. But anyway, so I was like watching. I'm like, gosh, that's amazing. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And then I was like, wait, I want to get all my friends together to do that.
Okay.
Wait, I'm going to do this every week. And it just kind of, that was it. It was like 3 questions to myself in a row. I'm like, oh, duh. And then I was like thinking, I was like, all right, what do I call it? And it's like $100 club. And I'm like, $100 dinner club. And so boom. And so I called my marketing guy, Brett, again. He's so good. And I was like, dude, go give me a website, get this all set up. And so long story short, I got some pretty influential friends here in Utah. A lot of my friends are, have big followings and stuff. And they love like all the stuff I do. I'm always trying to like get us together to do things for others. I have a saying called "We are the they."
I'm gonna ask you about it.
And so that's our group. Like we always say that, like we are the they. And so like we step up, we do things. And so I texted out to them all. I'm like, guys, here's what I'm doing. So week 1 came, and I think we had 25 people. Week 2, 25 people. Week 3, because I was limiting it because I didn't want to overwhelm the restaurants, and it was hard to find restaurants at that time that would even let us. Yeah. And I would only go to restaurants that didn't make us wear a mask. And anyway, long story short, we had over 100 people sign up that week. I left it open. And I'm like, man, we got something here. And so we wanted to record them all so that it would cause a movement, right? And I've gotten some backlash from people, and like, I don't care. I know my truth around this. I know my motives. I know why I'm doing it. So if you want to criticize that we're sharing it, great.
What are they criticizing for? Like,
oh, like Jesus never had to tell everybody the good he was doing. Yeah, stuff like that. And I literally respond to those people. I'm like, well, me and Jesus talk all the time, and he thinks it's freaking awesome that I post it. Yeah, he's on board. Trust me, we talk all the time. He's my homie. Told me I can talk to him anytime I want.
Direct line.
And so, but it was really cool. So what happened is I started encouraging other people to do their own. And now there's been over 200 different nights where at some restaurant, anywhere from 10 to 100 people have gotten together and done these. I think every state in the country has done it. A group from Colombia did one. A group from Germany did one.
It's crazy.
And so it really started spreading. Yeah. So I just want to keep it going, man. It's whether you can do it once a month, once a week, once a quarter. I just tell people, look, like just get some people. It's such a great marketing thing too, because like I'm a marketer, right? Like that's what I'm always looking at things, and like networker. And it's like, how do you meet amazing people every single week? Well, I do the $100, and we do it every week.
Yeah.
And by doing it every single week, I'm meeting 2 to 3 new people, if not 10, every single week that, they're charitable.
Yeah.
Immediately I know that.
So there's immediate value right there.
100%.
Your
Like
guys'
this person comes from
values
charity. Yes.
are connecting together.
Yes, you're meeting people that like are givers and charitable. And so that alone is like, oh, it's perfect. And I've met so many amazing people through this group now. And so we've been doing it every week for almost 6 months now. And like I said, I mean, in Utah.
You go every week. You go to this $100 dinner club. Mm-hmm. You've done it every week for 6 months. You just pick random restaurants.
Yeah, we just pick random restaurants. We all go. So like last night we did one. So we've done this twice now where we decided, I got some buddies from LA that, my buddy Dan Fleischman, and every time he comes into town, he's like, hey, let's do a $1,000 dinner club. So this is the second one was last night. So everyone that came brought $1,000.
Cash.
Yeah. Well, they just Venmo me. I go to the bank and get a bunch of cash out. But we always do cash because it's just more fun. And we don't want the restaurant to maybe take some of it or something. I don't know if they would. But anyway, long story short, we all brought the $1,000 and we gave our waitress. She got $9,000, and then we split the $5,000 between all of her coworkers and the cooks and everyone else. And I got a text today from my buddy, like saw a random Facebook page where the owner of that restaurant was telling, like, last night we had a miracle at our place. I'll get choked up talking about it, but he's like telling how the cook was like, he thought it was a trap. He like didn't want the money at first because he's like, why are they giving us all this money? And then like he just broke down crying, and then another woman broke down crying. It was like,
what? Like, if you don't mind sharing, what was the restaurant you went to?
Last night was it's called Strap Tank.
Oh yeah. Oh, is that good food?
Yeah, awesome.
Did you go to the one up in
Lehigh?
Lehigh?
Yeah.
They have one south too.
Yeah. But like, dude, I know, like, I actually feel like my whole life I know I'm guided.
Yeah.
And so like, every morning my first thing I do is I say a prayer. I say, God, lead me to the people that need me today. And that's my prayer every day, to find the people that are waiting for me. And so it's been crazy. Some of these stories that you hear of these people we end up, giving the tips to, because usually it's $2 to $3 grand, right? Somewhere in there, which is still
$100.
Yeah. And every time we do it, like we'll hear these stories will come back, like you won't believe like what happened. And it's like, it's actually not that coincidental. It's just that everybody needs it. Like everybody's hurting, right? And so, and more than even the money, what it's done is like, and this is the feedback we keep getting, is like, people are like, wow, like people care. Like people care about me. Like picture you're a waitress and, you know, or a server or whatever, and you just kind of wondering if your life has meaning or whatever else. And all of a sudden these random 25 strangers show up and all leave you $100 tip just because they want to do something for you.
Yeah.
Like that is the vibe. Like I believe that we have the power to raise the frequency of the entire, you know, world, universe, if we try to. And so just doing little things like that. So I've just been encouraging everybody, like do your own $100 dinner club and just get people together. If you're a realtor, if you're some kind of networker and you're, you know, some insurance guy, if you own a car dealership, like any of these things, there is nothing better for like networking and meeting great people. And by the way, your business is going to boom from this, you know?
Yeah.
It's not the reason you do it. It's just a side product of being a really cool networker. Bob Berg talks about this all the time, right? It's like you give. Gary Vee, same thing. Like just give so much value back to society. You know, the Zig Ziglar quote, you know, if you want to get everything you want in life, just help enough other people get what they want. But it's so fun too. Like somebody asked me on a podcast a couple weeks ago, they're like, so why do you do this? And I was like, why doesn't everybody do this? Like, I get more fun than anybody. You know how fun it is to leave those tips? It's so addicting. Like I can't even go to eat now without leaving a $100 tip because I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to the fun of like the feeling of doing good and knowing that these people are like, you know, gonna look at that tip, and usually we're gone before, like if I just go out to dinner, I'm gone before they see it. But I just like picture in my mind when they open that and they're just like, oh, okay. You know, and so it's addicting. And I'm like, I don't know why everyone doesn't live like this. But selfishly, I do it because it makes my life really good. Like it makes my life a really cool, fun way to live.
No, it's incredible. And I want to stay on values here with you for a second and giving back, which is a big thing. And you made a comment a while ago that I thought, dude, this is something that took me a while to understand in business. But it actually goes back to religion as well, about just giving and giving back and giving back. Mm-hmm. And I always believe in three things, right, when it comes to business, which is connections, collaborations, and a cause. If you can tie those three things into a business, dude, you can do a lot of freaking stuff. There's a lot of sub points, but just if you'll focus on those three things, right, connecting with other people, collaborating with them to see what they got going on and what do you have going on, and then what's the bigger cause, man? So we run this thing called the Power Room, right, which is a bunch of high net worth, business owners, and they come out and I've done it for a while, and it's like, man, there's all this cool connections happening, and this person meeting this person, and kind of like we just talked about the dinner, right? And then there's all these collaborations where you see this like guy that one of the guys owned the third largest appraisal company in the nation, and then the next thing you know, he's owning Bucked Up gyms, and he's like, he's not even a fit guy, but it's just the opportunity, the collaborations of like, oh, you're going to open gyms? Well, I'll open a gym with you, right? And then it was so cool watching all that, and I was like, man, this is so fulfilling. And then all of a sudden, I ran into one of your friends, mutual friends here, with Tim Ballard, and I added that third C into the process, which is the cause. And kind of on a whim, I went to dinner with Tim and then said, dude, I want you to come out like in 3 days. And just so happened he was in town, and he's like, okay, I'll come on and just tell us what you do, right? Anyways, we raised like $150,000 for him in like 5 minutes. Like he told the story. He's like, I need $50,000 for this, and I made him say it. Like he didn't even want to do it. Like raise money. I'm like, I got on the stage and said, dude, Tim needs $50,000 for this, and just the hand started going up. So raise your hand if you want to donate. We'll take your name down. And I say 5 minutes or 10 minutes only because it took me that long to go around all the freaking names, And dude, that room changed from that day forward. When all of a sudden it was no more. We all connected on an equal value system of our cause. Like, hey, we can all believe into this. And like you said, it's amazing of what that will freaking do to your business, to your connections, to people around you, when you find not just business common denominators, but a value system of common denominators. On that note, I want to talk about your tattoo. Yeah. Because, dude, this tattoo... I'm not a tattoo guy.
I'm not either. Never was.
I don't have any tattoos, but I want one. And I know like a lot of people, people that get tattoos will get all kinds of stuff, but like I don't know, I'm just not. Something about it just doesn't entice me.
Same.
But I do want one, and I've been like kicking around like because I want it super important, like super important. And dude, your tattoo, I'm not gonna steal it from you, but it is so freaking cool. If I didn't know you, I'd steal it from you.
You can steal it.
Because like when you told me, dude, it was like chills.
Yeah.
Like straight chills. And it has to do with again, what you're great at, which is giving back, like leading with your heart, bro. Like, and as I just pick up on your energy, like you just seem like a guy who leads straight from his heart, man. So I want to tell you, I want you to tell a story about the tattoo and what you got going on.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Tim Ballard, and so 5-6 years ago when OUR first launched, I had the opportunity to hear from one of the guys that had gone undercover named Paul Hutchinson, and he was running a few people to go do this undercover work. And anyway, long story short, I'm very good at getting in a room if I want to be there, and because I know how to create value for other people. Like if you make somebody else's life a lot better and a lot easier, they'll open any door for you, right? And so anyway, long story short, I just made myself a huge asset to the organization, and I got to the point where they said, okay, we'll let you go on some ops. So I went on the first op and went to Mexico and went amazing, rescued some kids, went on another op. Eventually I ended up getting to go on 11 different ops with Operation Underground Railroad.
And real quick, ops means
you go undercover and help rescue kids that are being trafficked.
out of the country.
Yeah,
like
we
just
literally,
traveling around the world.
me and my 3 buddies would fly into a city and they'd say, go find the bad guys. So
It's
we would
nuts,
literally
dude.
go down to the beach and go down to wherever we were at, start finding those street hustlers. We're talking to them, and I speak Spanish for my mission, another
Oh, that's right,
awesome
that's
thing,
right, yeah.
So it helped me a lot in that work. And with sometimes it took 45 minutes to find the traffickers, sometimes it took 3 days. But we would basically start talking to every street hustler until we could find those people, and then we would set up the op. We'd set up the sting or whatever else. And so we had one in particular. It was in Mexico. It was super dangerous op. I'll kind of explain a little bit. Like we had been told from our one of our guys with us, we went 2 and 2 to go just to try to meet more people. And one of the guys that we'd been talking to we thought was a trafficker, he told us to meet him at this address. He goes, hey, I want you to meet my partner. Like we want to talk to you guys. And our partner sent us the address, and then we couldn't hear back from him. So I'm like, well, let's just go meet him there. He wasn't getting back to us. And so there was 3 of us in the car. We were in a taxi, and we started going, and the address was at the end of like a ramp, like a boat kind of dark alley ramp, dude. And we
Place
start
you don't wanna
driving
be.
down it, and one of the guys with us, this guy named, well, I don't want to say his name, but he goes, this is a death zone. This is a death zone. Turn around. I mean, we were on a pier. It was like a pier going out to this darkest place, and we were like, oh shit. So the taxi, we hurry and turn around, and we bailed out of there. And I'll just tell you like the rest of that story. Like 2 weeks later, the trafficker that we were meeting ended up getting shot down. So I can't promise you that like something was gonna go down, but it was pretty scary. Like it was pretty scary.
You could feel it on the back of your neck.
For sure. And I literally called my buddy Travis, and I was like, bro, I don't think I'm doing this anymore. Like we almost freaking died. And,
What number was that of your ops?
I was like the 4th or 5th one.
4th or 5th one, okay.
Yeah.
So you kept going.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was, that was like the pre-op setting it up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
So 2 weeks later, we
Like
set
the
up the party. So
recon.
we go back 2 weeks later, and we took these dudes down. They were some bad dudes. And by the way, in the trafficking world, there's bad guys and there's evil guys, and there
Okay.
is a difference.
Okay.
Bad guys are idiots. They got into this. They just took advantage of a situation. They knew a neighbor or a kid or whatever. They're awful still, but like it is different than the evil guys who like have an organization around this, and they're
like a
trying
business. They
to
run it as a
kidnap and
business.
rape or whatever they need to do to get these kids. Yeah, it's very different. But anyway, these guys were evil. That's
Okay.
my whole point, right?
Okay.
And so anyway, we ended up taking these dudes down, and oh my gosh, the most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my life. The one dude was getting tasered by the police because they arrest us too and take
Sure.
us to the airport, you know. And this dude's getting tasered, and his yelling and the taser combined was just like the most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my life. He was a bad dude, evil. Anyway, so I'm coming home from that op, and now I'm pumped because we had the takedown. We rescued like 17 girls, arrested all these horrible dudes, and I'm on cloud 9. I'm telling her the story in the car as we're driving home from the airport.
This is your girlfriend.
Girlfriend at the time, yeah. And she pulls over and she goes, hey, like, we need to talk about this. And I was like, okay. And she goes, honestly, like, I hate this. Like, I hate that it's dangerous. Like, it's not a good environment. Like, I really don't want you to do this anymore. And I was like, and I was so excited. I'd just been telling the story. I was
You're on
like,
cloud
as
9.
excited as I am right now telling the story.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, this is part of my life's work now. And she goes, well, I get that somebody has to do it, but why can't they just go do it? And without even thinking, it just came out of my mouth. I go, there is no they. We are the they. And as soon as I said it, I was like,
Dude,
oh,
I got it right
shit.
now.
Like, we are the they. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my new life motto. We are the they. So anytime we see something wrong, somebody needs help, something's not happening, people always say, why don't they do something about this? And there is no they. We are the they.
You're
and
right.
so that's my tattoo, just says we are the they.
Yeah, it's so simple, clean, to the point. You didn't do it in like Sanskrit and Egyptian hieroglyphics.
No.
Just
Nice and
regular
easy, and
English.
I love it. Like, there's
I love you put it there where number one you can see it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Oh,
number
yeah.
two, it opens up the door. Like I'd never, if that was on your chest or something, I'd obviously never seen it. But it started that tattoo, if you think about it, started a conversation between me and you that I'd have probably never got into,
True,
right?
yeah,
but it
yeah.
opened up these doors, and I don't know where it's going to go from here. But it started it off of that freaking tattue right there,
Yeah,
dude.
no, it's really
So great placement too.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, so
You're a
the-
marketer. What
with-
am I saying? What am I saying?
Well, it's stylish. You roll up the sleeves a little bit, but no, and I love it, man. And I've always been against tattoos too. I'm
Yeah.
like, I think the human body is so beautiful, male and female. I just think the body itself is beautiful, and and I was like, oh, I will never get a tattoo. But when I thought of this, I'm like, oh, that has to go. Like done, and I've loved it. But
And I told you in there, dude. I'm going to tell you on air now because I'm going to put some pressure and accountability on you.
sounds good.
You've got to turn that into merch, bro. Like you have got to. That's more than a tattoo.
Yeah, we are.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to because I
That's
love
so
the message.
powerful.
What I want is a movement again, right? Like
Yeah.
people. So like, I'll give you an example. About a little over a year ago, there was a kid here locally, a black kid adopted from Haiti. He was getting bullied at Pleasant Grove High School. I don't know if you remember the story or not. Some kids had thrown some shit all over his car.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there reading this before I go to bed on my computer.
Like on the news? Or
It was on the news. Yeah, it was
Okay.
all number one stories, like black kid being hazed by, and it was just this super like awful story. It was right before the pandemic and all that happened. But and I'm sitting there reading it, and I read some of the comments. It's like 130 comments, and everyone's like, "This is terrible. I can't believe this." Blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh! Like, why is this still happening in 2020?" And so I go upstairs. It was 2009. It was the end of the year that year. I go upstairs to go to bed, and I'm pretty good friends with the Jazz players. I'm good friends with a lot of the local like NFL guys. Kyle Van Noy was my old roommate. Fred Warner, all pro Niners, close friend of mine. A lot of influencer friends that I've met through my podcast. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, I can single-handedly change this if I decide to. And I literally go, well, we are the they. So I send out a text to like all my people. I said, guys, here's what's going on. We need to fix this. And I go, poof. And then I go downstairs. I set up a Facebook page. I said, hey, we're taking donations for this kid. Here's what's going on.
Okay, GoFundMe or something?
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell hit me back. He's like, dude, let's get him to a game. I'll take it. Rudy Gobert bought him the front row seats to the next game. Kyle Van Noy personally called him. Garrett G, the Bucket List family called him. All these other influencers, all these people. Like he literally had, I think, over 20 people that like have influence reached out to this kid. I got a hold of the dad, the kid, everything. So we get this kid to the game. He's getting shoes. We ended up getting a party thrown at Pleasant Grove High School, like with all this money we got donated. Literally over 50 people donated a huge prize. He's on the soccer team. My loan officer, Steve, donated new cleats for the whole team. The entire narrative got completely switched around. This kid, instead of like being like finding out he's been bullying on, he's actually like a pretty popular kid at school. It was kind of a misconception, if I'm being honest, but like the entire narrative went from like, Utah's racist, this is horrible, all these people that hate black people. And it was like, look how a community rallied around this kid.
Yeah.
And the whole thing switched. And I was like, who knows what happens if I just go to bed?
Yeah.
But I did it because I could. And that's what I tell people, do good because you can. There's no other reason you need to do it. Just do it because you can. And so, with the restaurants and all that, the $100 dinner club, the same thing. And it's like, all the time people reach out and they see something. It just doesn't take much effort. And it's such a rewarding way to live. I mean, what the hell else are you going to spend your money on? You know?
Totally. I'm going to ask you one more question. And I don't know if you have ever answered this question before in a podcast, but I want to know where does Jimmy get this drive to lead from the heart? Like where does this come from, dude? It's very unique that people do this, but where does it come from for you?
And I hate that it's unique. I didn't even know it was unique until I got a little older. But when I was a kid, my mom, she taught special ed.
Okay.
I've tried to think of where this comes from, and I just remember like watching those kids, and like she'd take me to kind of play with them, and I was a kid too or whatever, and I just remember like my heart going out to him and wanting to help him, and so I don't know if it was that or whatever, but I think just the more you do good, like you get that feeling, and like that feeling of good, like. And so I don't know if it comes from that or where, but it is addicting. Like every time I do good, I'm like super.
The one that I mean, you know how this goes, and everybody says it, but until you do it, you just don't experience it.
Yeah.
When you go do that, you get more benefit from that.
Oh, it's
than like anybody else there, dude.
Dude, I'll tell you.
It's not that you're doing it for it, but it is a guaranteed going to happen. Like when you go to the dinner club and you give them money, as much as that waitress, they got $9,000 was like changed, for you, like, dude, it's like it's a drug almost.
It is. No, and it's such a fun thing because you end up being surrounded by such amazing people too, and that's the real reward of it. I'll tell you a quick story. Being single for as long as I've been, I had like 5 or 6 Christmases there in a row where my whole family's married, they're doing their thing, and I kind of started feeling bad for myself. It's like you get lonely at Christmas time.
Sure.
And I said one year, this was like 2012, I think. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get out of my own way this year. I'm gonna do like Sub for Santa. I'm gonna do a date auction off my friends.
Okay.
We're gonna raise money and give it to Sub for Santa.
Okay.
And so I put together this event, and turns out I'm pretty good at throwing events. And so my goal was $1,500. We ended up raising like $32,000.
Wow.
And this was in the middle of the downturn. I mean, people did not have money. There was a lot of people needed this money. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So we spend the entire month of December finding families to give presents to wrapping them, buying them, delivering them, the whole thing. We ended up giving Christmas to about 200 kids. And it got me so out of my own head or my own feeling like, oh, poor me, right? And it was such a fun Christmas. Well, then the last day, so Christmas Eve, and by the way, I was so careful to never miss a kid because I knew, even though I had 207 kids we were buying Christmas for or whatever it was, I also knew okay, every one of those is a real kid. And if we miss one, that is a kid on Christmas not having any presents. So I was I'm not a naturally organized guy. I was as organized as I've ever been in my life. And I was like, okay, well, Christmas morning, I get a call from this lady. She goes, hey, the such and such family never got the gifts. And we were done. I had spent the money. I didn't have extra. We were exhausted. I had things for Christmas Eve planned. And I'm like, I don't remember this family. And she goes, what do you want me to do? And it was this moment, I remember I was walking into Walmart and I was just like, well, I got 2 options here. I can either do this or I can just tell her sorry, we're out. And I'm like, I was very, I didn't want to do it. I was very oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. This family, I swear to God, they didn't send me this.
Sign up,
so I'm like, I'll do it. Send me the email. And so I ended up buying 5 kids.
5 kids, not one.
There's a little Latin family out in Harriman, but Harriman's a pretty nice area. So my attitude gets even worse. I'm like, they're in Harriman. They have money. What the hell do they need me to buy them Christmas for? I just totally have this negative attitude. I just was exhausted. And I'm just being honest. And I buy the presents. I bought all the wrapping paper and the stuff to wrap it. And I just okay, I'll deliver it. They can wrap them themselves, but I don't have time. But I bought all of this stuff. 3 huge garbage bags full of stuff. And I remember I was going to dinner with my mom. My parents had kind of recently been divorced, so every Christmas Eve I'd spend it with her. And we went to dinner and a movie. And after the movie, I told him I'll be by after the movie, and to let him know. It was 10 o'clock at night, on Christmas Eve. And I'm driving out to Harriman from Murray. It's 25 minutes probably. I remember I get to the address, and it had been snowing like crazy, it's blizzard. So it's right out of the movies, dude. It's 3 feet of snow, and I'm driving, and I'm this is so stupid. I can't believe this. And I get to this cul-de-sac, and there's no house. And I'm just of course. I'm and this is 2000. It was 2011 actually. I remember because it was before I went to school. And so I'm well, great. Now what do I do? And so I'm checking again, and I look out in this field, about 100 yards out. There's this little shack, and I'm oh, it's got to be them. So I start trudging out there, dude, in the snow with 3 huge garbage sacks full of toys and wrapping paper. I get to this house, and tiny, it's smaller than this little studio, dude. It had 1 bedroom, and then it had the kitchen connected to the main room. And I knock, and this thing looked like it was about to be torn down. There's a 100% chance it has since been torn down. But I knock on the door, and this little Latin family, little Mexican family answers, and they're so grateful, and their kids are all asleep in the one room. They're like, our kids are asleep in there. And they have a tree, it's 3 feet high, and there's nothing under it. This family has nothing. And I hand them all the stuff, and I speak Spanish again, so I'm talking to them, and we're just having this moment, and I'm just oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful I listened and actually did this, even though I was reluctant to want to do it. And, and I ended up giving them all the presents, and they're crying, and they're just we're so happy, thank you. And we didn't know if our kids were having Christmas. And they wanted to give me something, they didn't have anything of value, so they tried to give me the remote control. And I'm I don't want your remote control. They just didn't know what else to give. They just were so thankful, right? And I'm no. And so they gave me a hot pad, and it was kind of this little, I still have it or whatever, but so they give me this hot pad, and I'll never forget, dude, I leave that house, and tears are just strolling down my cheeks. I'm just I'm so grateful that I did this. I'm like, I will never complain about doing service again. Like,
Wow.
I was so grateful that I listened. And that ended up being like, that was by far the best Christmas of my life.
Wow.
That was like a life-changing moment. And I was like, wow, what if I hadn't listened? Like, I would have robbed myself of this most beautiful Christmas moment I've ever had.
Yeah, because how old are you now?
39.
39. So that you'd have robbed yourself of 30 out of the 39 Christmases. That's your number one favorite
Yeah.
Christmas, dude, and you almost walked away from the whole thing.
Yep.
That's crazy, dude. I mean, I'm so, I interview, as you know, like you do a podcast too. I interview, like you interview, just tons and tons of people, man. And I just honestly sit here and say, like, dude, like you are such a freaking giver, and it's like so, it pours out of you, man. Like it sincerely, like, I think I don't know, for like for those that don't know on the podcast that watch the show, there's like live people here, and at least for me, man, like you've affected me for sure. Like I wish it was Christmas so I could go give shit away right now. Go find a cabin.
You don't
in the
have to wait
woods.
till Christmas, man.
Yeah, and,
And by the way, you were a giver. I know that too, because the limited time we've spent together, I've seen it already. But
yeah, man, it's so compelling what you're doing, man. If you guys are listening and you're in business, like, dude, this goes back, and I'm gonna wrap the show up now because like this goes back to money, basically. Like, what is freaking money, bro? At the end of the day, you can't just be doing it for a bigger bank account, right?
No.
Like, there's got to be. That's why I started the host show. There's got to be something bigger than another car. And I'm for cars. I drive a nice car. I'm for nice houses. I'm totally for it, bro. But there has got to be something bigger for it. So on that note, Jimmy, we got your Money Is sign here, and for the Money Is Jimmy Rex. So you put your whatever your answer is here, put it here, and then you put that big John Hancock right there.
love it.
I'll give this to you, and then me and you can walk through it and answer it together here, or define it for you.
All right, man. It's a
You
little
got it?
longer than one word, but
That's all right, man. That's what we want. Okay, so here it is. Jimmy Rex. It says, money is whatever you give it energy to be. That's so freaking cool, man. Whatever you give it energy to be. Okay, now I love the answer. I get all these, tons right.
yeah.
Obviously, this was never been it's said before. Money is energy, has been said, and I love that answer actually, because I actually think money is energy. It's a stored energy of value, basically, right? So I love it. But this one says money is whatever you give it energy to be. Now, my first question to you is, when did you come up with the answer at? As you were sitting here during the show, before?
Before, as we were talking, I was trying to think, of the right way to say it, because I'm like, all right, what are my? I've actually put a lot of effort into understanding what money means, because it's very important. I went to Wealth Mastery with Tony Robbins, and your limiting beliefs about money can be very crippling.
It's so crazy.
Very crippling. And so
Crazy.
I've actually done a lot of work to up my money magnitude, my money mindset, all those kind of things. And so, but I was like, money is an amplifier, because it's like money makes you more of whatever you are. I believe that, but ultimately money is just money. Like money is, if I give money energy to be one thing, it'll be that thing. But if I give it energy to be something else, it'll be that thing. So if I believe money is the root of all evil, it will be the root of all evil.
Yeah.
If I believe money is my pathway to happiness, then I can make it my pathway to happiness. Like I can give the energy of money, just like anything though, love's the same way, right? And so for me, it's so important to get, an idea around money with the concept of like, okay, like I can use money to absolutely change the world. But also I can be entrapped by money if I let it be that for me. And so anyway, that's what I just think is, however we put out the energy towards it, whatever our thoughts about it are, it's going to be.
Dude, this is so freaking awesome, because one of my mentors, I was talking about money and kind of raised the same thing, like raising my bar of my belief system of money, my value system of money. And one of the things he talked to me about was, he said, and it almost goes back to a little bit of religion for a second, but he's like, that $100 bill, right? If you had a $100 bill on the table, he said, that money can be used for good or for bad, man. Mm-hmm. And he's like that. And he said, if you stop and think about it, he said, if say that $100 bill's been in circulation for, let's just say 20 years now. He said, if you stop and think about it, what has that $100 bill actually done? Like all the hands that it's went through, right? Not all those were good hands. Mm-hmm. Some of those were bad hands, and some of those were evil hands. And that same money has the power, what you were talking about, has the power to change the world, and also has the power to destroy the world. Like that same money, it's what, and your answer is like dead on what he was saying. It's what you're giving it energy to be. Because one person is deciding to use $100 and buy that family that you spoke of Christmas, but that other person that you were kicking their ass in Mexico was using the same $100 bill, if you will, to buy children for sexual stuff. But it's the same money. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's just what you're giving it energy to go and do. Man, this is a breakthrough for me because I've always appreciated what he told me about it and like the lineage almost of money. But I've never had the words to say, like to tie all that, what he was saying into a nice bow.
Yeah.
And dude, you tied it in a great bow for me because money is whatever you give it energy to be. It is energy, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's whatever you give it energy to be. And now it's like plugging into that wall, and you can plug it into a good outlet or a bad outlet, right? A good outlet's going to give you power, and a bad outlet will burn your house down.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Dude, what a profound freaking answer, bro.
Thank you.
That's a good one, man. I love it because like you can testify this. I never ask you what your answer is before the show. But
No.
I enjoy just getting the raw, whatever it is, you know. But man, you're a top answer, man. I really appreciate it, and it's such a sincere answer. Jimmy, dude, I've had an absolutely great time on the podcast with you, and out of all the guys that I've and women that I've interviewed, man, you have definitely came through as one of the most sincere, authentic. I just say leading from the heart. It's the only way I had to tie you up and try to define you. If someone asked me who's Jimmy Rex, and I wouldn't say business mogul, which you are. I wouldn't say card enthusiast like me and you are. Sneakerhead. Dude, I would just say leader from the heart, man. That's how I would define you, bro.
Thank you.
And it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, and I hope I can continue a relationship with you way past this because I love to connect with people that are just like you, man, that are in it for a much bigger purpose, and I can see it in your eyes, you can see it in your heart, that's who you are, man. So absolute pleasure. You guys watching the show, this is Mr. Jimmy Rex. We'll put his Instagram handle. You make sure you follow him on Instagram, and you can also go to his website, which is mrjimmyrex.com. We'll put it in the show notes. This is the real deal, man. There's pure sincerity and authenticity here. So you guys make sure you follow him. I will see you guys next week on the Money Is Show.